everybody. It is week 17 of NFL Points, Picks, and Props, the very best NFL betting show that you can find on any of your podcast choices on YouTube, anywhere in the world. We are the best. We are doing great. We're actually having quite a good year on our picks. Ben O'Connell, are you in Chicago now? Or are you? I know
I
you've
am
been on the road.
currently in Chicago.
Ben
I
O'Connell
am.
from Chicago, Illinois. I am Kyle Garwood in Denver, Colorado. The third of our trio, Tommy Birch, he, for whatever reason, has chosen to be with his family over us. Poor choice, in my opinion. He is on a ski trip in Vermont. You will hear from him via video later, but he is not going to be here. So please don't tell him anything that we say about him tonight. It is carte blanche for Ben and I to talk about Tommy behind his back. Anyway, so Tommy's a 49ers fan. He did not care for a Christmas night. I'm a Chiefs fan. I did not care for Christmas morning. And Ben, as a Broncos fan, he did not care for Christmas Eve.
I don't even
Uh,
remember it. I don't.
yeah, it was all. Yeah, the football Santa gave us all lumps of coal in our stockings. So we're gonna we're just gonna rely on the real Santa. That football Santa is bullshit. We're just gonna focus on the real Santa, and hopefully he gave us all fine little merry treats. All right, so because it is just the two of us, and because I am the one who prepares the quiz, we're not gonna have a quiz tonight because I would probably win as the person who knows all the answers. But that does not mean that we're not going to have some fun. We are going to talk football. We're going to make all of the picks this weekend. It is week 17. Right now, there are 6 teams in the playoffs. There are 8 teams eliminated. Do the quick math. That means there are 18 teams remaining for 8 spots. Every single game this weekend has at least one team in the playoff mix. And so we are going to talk about all of them. And we're going to begin with Tommy. He is going to explain to you that he is on a ski trip with Vermont just after we're in Vermont after I just did. But we'll go ahead and let him humor us with his explanations. And he's going to make his picks. The first one, the 49ers at the Commanders.
How's it going, guys? Calling in from Vermont right now, West Dover, hitting up Mount Snow with the family for a nice little ski trip. You know, I snowboard personally, but the rest of my family skis. But, you know, despite the family trip and the terrible, terrible internet, I'm here for the fans. I'm here for the sports betting, football betting in particular. So I have a few games that I need to go over for you guys, and I'm going to split them up for you bit by bit. And I'm going to start with the San Francisco 49ers playing at Washington, and I'm taking San Francisco minus 13.5. They had a bad break last game. It was probably the first game that Brock Purdy genuinely played bad. It was a bad football game on his part. And despite the bad, there was little hints of good within. He was still making those passes. There was one pass on the left sideline to George Kittle that he should have brought in the first couple of drives. He threw one to George Kittle that went down the sideline for quite a few yards. He was still throwing the ball on a rope. But bad things happen, made a couple of poor decisions, a couple of bad breaks. Wasn't a very good game. But luckily, he gets to play Washington. And Washington is terrible at football. And one other thing about Washington is that they are starting Jacoby Brissett this week. That scares me just a little bit because Jacoby Brissett has proven to be not just serviceable as a starter, but safe with the ball. And that's what the issue with Sam Howell has been. They have weapons. They can be good. And if Jacoby Brissett can use those weapons, that team could take this within 2 scores. But I love the 13.5. That gives the Niners the 14-point lead, the 2-score lead, 2 touchdowns. It's definitive. If it was 14.5, I might have to go Washington. But just because it's minus 13.5, I love San Francisco here. They're going to come back strong this week.
So apparently Tommy is recording in a library and is talking very, very quietly and doesn't want to disturb anybody as he talks about the 49ers. I think that he should be a little more robust in talking about the 49ers' terrible game last week. It's funny that he mentioned the rope of Brock Purdy. I think if we saw anything in that game is Sam Darnold has a better arm than Brock Purdy. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback, but he has a better arm. I do agree with Tommy. The 49ers are going to be pissed off. They got embarrassed on national television. They threw 5 interceptions. That's not going to happen this week against Washington. Washington is a terrible football team. They all know that they're going to be clearing out their lockers as soon as the season's over, and they're not going to be coming back to that facility. It's going to be a whole house cleaning in Washington. Yeah, this with this spread being under 2 touchdowns, absolutely, I'm all over it. The 49ers will go into Washington and they take out their frustrations from last week on a hapless Commanders team.
Kyle, I got a funny story for you. There's this guy in the Chicago comedy scene, very funny guy named Michael Cirio. And let me tell you, shout out to Michael Cirio, first off. I'll make sure you see this, Michael. Second, yeah, dude is the biggest Brock Purdy fan ever. Biggest Brock Purdy fan ever. And he came up to me, he's like, hey, Brock Purdy MVP, right? He ain't shit. He ain't. If he was, he wouldn't have played in Lames, Iowa for the Cyclones. Okay, I hate to break it for you guys. Can you imagine how good this 49ers team would be will be when they find an actual young quarterback to build around? They're going to be unstoppable. They're going to be a true dynasty. Brock Purdy, I'm not convinced is that guy. Doesn't have to be the guy to beat Washington. Doesn't have to be the guy to beat Washington by a lot. Washington loves getting beat by a lot. It's kind of what they do. Doesn't matter what their team name is, okay? Take your pick. They love losing. I'm going to go with you guys. I like the Niners in this one. Not a fan of Purdy, though.
And Ben, you also have liked a prop here,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm with you. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, he's going to score several touchdowns.
Several, and the first. I mean, I think that this is just going to, from the first drive, we're just going to see absolute San Francisco domination. If they end up kicking the ball first, I imagine it's going to be a quick 3-and-out. When they get the ball, I think that CMC is going to kind of just break it on a wheel route, catch it, and then just do CMC things. And we're going to be like, oh, yeah, they're the Niners. We're going to completely forget about what happened against Baltimore. We're going to be like, yeah, this is possibly the best team in the league. And then we will remember the Baltimore game. But I like CMC to get this first touchdown, dude. It's what he does, right? He just finds a way there.
Yeah, and I mean, if Lamar Jackson does slip up these last 2 weeks, McCaffrey's right there for that MVP award. And could you argue against him? I can't. The guy's been phenomenal. He's the best player on his team, and that team may still be the best team in the NFL. Yeah, I'm a McCaffrey fan. I like this prop. I think this is at plus 245 too. I mean, if this was at plus like 170, I would think that was still a good deal. So plus 245, I'm on it. Yeah, I like that. All right, Tommy has more picks for us, so we will go back to him for his second game.
All right, so moving on to my next game, I have Detroit playing at Dallas Saturday night. Dallas are heavy favorites at -6, surprisingly, after Detroit just won their division. But I am on board with this spread, and I think Dallas is going to take it. Detroit has had some issues playing against teams that are a little bit below them. But Dallas, Dallas is on and off. They're a light switch. Sometimes they play very well against good opponents, like they did against the Eagles in the Eagles losing streak, and sometimes they play bad. But Detroit I don't think is at the same level of NFC dominance as Dallas. Things might change playoff time. I think maybe Detroit has that mindset playoff time, but when it comes to Dallas in the regular season, I think Dallas has this. They still want that 1 seed, and despite this, Detroit's going to work hard. I mean, Detroit gets one little advantage with Dallas not being very good in the run and Detroit being one of the best run defending teams in the league. But one thing they're terrible at is pass defense. And even in last week's loss to the Dolphins, Dak had a pretty good game, 252 touchdowns. And another big issue is that Detroit, their number one guy at corner, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's still going to be out. Well, not still going to be out. He's limited at practice. But that doesn't bode well because injuries, especially at the defensive back position, can be very, very influential on the game's outcome. So I'm going to have to go with Dallas -6.
I should explain. Tommy has kind of become the albatross around the Denver Broncos' neck. He has picked the Broncos an inordinate amount of time this year, and generally speaking, when he picks them, it is the kiss of death. And so, uh, as you can see, there's some little fonts that Tommy has added. I certainly had nothing to do with it. These are things that Tommy added to his videos. My hands are clean. There was no editing on my part. He has made these statements about the Denver Broncos that you can see on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. He's, Russell Wilson, biggest fan, very, very upset by what's happened to Russ. And Tommy's just letting that out in the way that he knows best. But again, I have had nothing to do with that at all. I am not responsible for anything that Tommy says or does in regards to the Denver Broncos.
Well, he's not
Um,
wrong either. Like
no,
that.
he's
I
not
thought it was
wrong.
seemed pretty factual.
No,
Seemed
no,
pretty factual.
he's not wrong at all. On this one though, I think that he is wrong. I think the Cowboys will win this game, but I think 6 points is a little high. I would if I was the one putting the spread, I would put this at about 3.5 or 4. I think the Lions offense will keep up with the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense has shown to be, I mean, like against the Bills, they were run all over, and this is a pretty good running team with Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. This Lions offense is going to put up some points. The Cowboys are going to put up a lot of points too because this Lions defense is not very good. But I can see this as a 35-31 kind of a game. I think this is going to be a closer game than 6 points. I'm going to go with the Lions to cover this spread, although I still think the Cowboys are going to be your winning team.
This is so close. I am right there with you, Kyle. I think that it's going to be an absolutely close game, but I could see just like a trash time touchdown, just to make this score look a little bit more lopsided than what we are necessarily seeing play out on the field, right? The bet in this game that I'm really excited about, I just looked it up. Right now, the over/under line is sitting at 52 points. I'm
Oh,
hammering the over on this.
oh,
This
they're getting to 60 points, I would think.
this is going to be a barn burner. This is going to be a fun, high scoring game.
Yeah.
52 points. Go buy yourself a couple more on that line. Play that up. I'm with you on the Detroit Lions +6, but you really go out there and consider that over 52 points on this one because there's a lot of value there.
No, that's 28-24. That to me is a third quarter score in this game. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that a lot. Good call on that one. All right. Tommy has another game. We shall hear from him now.
All right, so for my third pick of the day, the Green Bay Packers are +2.5 point underdogs to Minnesota, and that is where I'm picking. Minnesota is a talented football team, except for one really big issue, and it's the quarterback position. One thing that the Vikings, being the only team out of all the teams in the NFL, the Vikings are the one team that their backups are not playing very well. They got Josh Dobbs. He played well a couple of games, but then he just turned over, played terribly. Now, Nick Mullins not playing up to standard. So they're putting Jaron Hall in there. I don't know how to feel about that, but one thing that the Packers have is consistency. Now, I know that there's a lot of players in their injury report, an incredible amount of players in their injury report. Most of them are limited. A lot of them are going to see time in the next game. The Vikings, however, although they have probably half as many players on the injury list, they have significantly more players that can't practice, and some of those players are very impactful. Byron Murphy and Mekhi Blackman at DB are both out. Jordan Addison is out, and that plus a couple other guys puts 6 guys on the did not practice list, and that doesn't even include Alexander Mattinson, who was limited at practice because of an ankle. I mean, these are two battered teams, but one thing that changes, like the big difference between them, is the Packers being consistent at the quarterback position versus the Minnesota Vikings, which are starting their 4th quarterback in the last throughout the season. It's not a good look for them, but I am gonna have to go with Green Bay, not only to be covering that spread, but possibly be in top dog territory.
I actually like the Vikings here. They played the Lions relatively close last week. In fact, they were leading in the second half. This defense for Minnesota is sneaky good. Hall's actually already started a game this year, so he's not brand new to this. Yes, they have started four quarterbacks. Kevin O'Connell is just looking for somebody who's not going to turn the ball over four times a game. Dobbs was doing that. Mullins has done that. If this team would stop, giving out interceptions like they were Oprah Winfrey, they might actually win some of these games. And I think they do that in this game. I think the Vikings are going to win this game by a field goal or more, and I think that Minnesota covers this spread. Both these teams are still in the hunt. Both these teams have a chance at the wild card. I think the Vikings are the ones who take a step forward and go in that direction. I think Green Bay's season comes to a close. Jaren Hall's not going to be spectacular, but he doesn't need to be. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Look, Minnesota beat the Packers 24-10 when they played the first time, and that was with a backup quarterback. I like the Vikings to go ahead and win this game.
Oh man, this is a close one. I think that the thing about the Packers is you just never know when they're gonna actually decide to play, some relatively clean football. Uh, and you kind of just have to guess when Jordan Love is gonna show up. Uh, I'm feeling lucky. I'm gonna guess that Jordan Love steps up in this game here against a division rival. Some high stakes here late in the season. I'm gonna go with the Packers. Not really confident. Uh, I'll be looking. I'll be checking in on this one on the ticker. I don't know how much real estate on the screen it's gonna take up, but I'll be paying attention to it.
Well, this is the Sunday night game. It's all by itself, so you can watch it from start to finish.
Oh my
You don't have
goodness,
to
this
miss a
is this is
you don't have
prime
to miss a
time.
second. Prime time, Jaren Hall. Don't
Oh
miss a
man,
second.
I might have to order myself a pizza for this one. Are you kidding me? I might have to invite the crew over. This might be a big deal.
Absolutely. This is the Super Bowl kind of a hype situation. You got Jaren Hall versus Jordan Love. All right, Tommy. He has more games, two more games. In fact, here is game number 4.
For my fourth game of the day, Tennessee is traveling to Houston and on Sunday early afternoon, and Houston are minus 3.5 point favorites, which is also where I am picking. CJ Stroud was limited at practice, and I've heard, from what I've seen, there's great signs for him coming back this week, hopefully. Levis was full at practice while CJ was limited. So we might see the two top guys for those teams again. However, there is a very stark difference between Houston's top guy and Tennessee's top guy. Levis, he has that dog in him, but having that dog in you doesn't make you a better football player sometimes. But even despite the quarterback difference, Houston as a team overall looks significantly better. And with CJ, they are a playoff caliber team. The guy, even with his injury, is probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year. And he was on pace to be one of the MVP favorites as a rookie. So, there's not really much of a debate here. If CJ's back, minus 3.5, and I might even take that if there is an injury at the quarterback position.
Well, Houston just beat Tennessee 2 weeks ago with Case Keenum. So I like the Houston Texans. The Titans are not a good team. Houston, they got beat badly by Cleveland, but Cleveland is playing some great football right now. I think Houston is still a quality team. They are a playoff caliber team. They are tied for first place right now in the AFC South. Jacksonville's got their banged up quarterback. It's possible Houston could still sneak in and grab that division. CJ Stroud being back is huge. Tommy is right. Will Levis is nowhere compared to CJ Stroud in terms of where he is right now in his young career. I like the Texans, even though it's over a field goal spread, not ideal. I think Houston wins this game by 5 or 6 points.
Losing to the Cleveland Browns is not that big of a deal. Come on, they're the Super Bowl favorites at this point, right? Come on, the flag attack. Come on. No, I like Houston here. to cover 3.5. I think that this is going to be easy work. I mean, they already took care of business in Tennessee. They're going to be home at NRG Stadium. It's going to be a good time. Yeah, I'm going with the Texans.
Well, yeah, I think of the 32 NFL teams, only two of them actually right now are led by former Super Bowl MVPs, being the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and, of course, the Browns with Joe Flacco. So, yeah, how do you bet against the Cleveland Browns? No, you
It's
can't.
impossible.
All right. Tommy has one final game, and it is a good one. It's the Dolphins at the Ravens.
For my last game of the day, my fifth game of the day. Fifth game of the day. Yeah, that's the one. Miami is traveling to Baltimore. And again, Baltimore at home, -4 favorites. I'm getting some crazy good games this week. I'm not going to lie to you. I got Miami, I got Houston, I got Detroit and Dallas, I got San Fran. I mean, at least they'll be fun for me. I don't know if Kyle and Ben will be watching all of those games. However, this game is premier because Miami just took down Dallas, taking down some of those fluke allegations, those fraud allegations, beating their first team over 500 and a very good team that's over 500. And then Baltimore is just taking down what was the best team in the league. Baltimore now is probably the best team in the league. That's why I have to pick the -4 here. Lamar Jackson, although that Baltimore team, there's all these arguments all over like Twitter and Instagram that Baltimore is they were outgained on the ground and in the air, and they only won by 14. They were outpaced on the ground and in the air because they got the ball in great field position every time. Yeah, the 49ers defense is great, but like their defense seemed to be better. And Miami, I think they're going to have trouble in Baltimore. It's an AFC opponent. They just came off of a huge win against Dallas, but I think Baltimore is a step above. They're probably going to win this game completely. So I have to go Baltimore -4.
It's a tough game. These two teams played at one of the best games of the year last year with all kinds of points. The Dolphins had an incredible fourth quarter to win that game. But yes, the Dolphins did just beat the Cowboys. They did just beat their first over 500 team. But Dallas, we know, is terrible against over 500 teams. So maybe that's a wash. The Ravens, however, are beating the crap out of really good teams, including the 49ers on the road. Now they're at home. They're not going to get 5 interceptions from Tua, but they're going to play some great football. Lamar Jackson is really, I mean, he is the MVP favorite right now, and he looks every bit. If you watch that game last week, he is the best player on the field. He is the value that he gives to the Ravens is undeniable. So at home, I just can't see the Dolphins being able to hang that close. I mean, again, this is a Dolphins team that has struggled against some bad teams on the road, including the New York Jets. So give me Baltimore. I think Baltimore wins this game by a touchdown or more. And I think that they clinch the number 1 seed this week, and they cruise into the playoffs and have that first round bye.
Yeah, Baltimore. The only thing that concerns me with Baltimore is just kind of looking. Kyle Hamilton's listed as questionable. Brandon Stevens is questionable. You want to make sure that secondary on the defense is nice and healthy playing before you lay down too much there. But honestly, regardless, I agree with what Tommy said about the Ravens being the best team in football. I'm not sure if I agree with him saying that Paxton Lynch is better than Brock Purdy. You know, I didn't think too highly of Brock Purdy. You guys heard me earlier, but Paxton Lynch, you know, wow there, Tommy. It's a hot take there. We'll hope you're cooling down from those hot takes on the cool slopes. Yeah, no, I like the Ravens here to get it done. I think 4 is a little low of a number.
Yeah, just one note on Tommy. So last year he took the same ski trip at this time, and so he gave us some nice videos making his picks. He did that from the ski lift. He's wearing his Bosa jersey as he's out there snowboarding. He's got his whole outfit on. He took us to the mountain with him. We felt like we were snowboarding with him. This year, he's locked in some kind of wood paneled cabin. He's afraid to obviously wake his parents in the room next door. Tommy, the production quality from last year to this, what's happening here? It's major regression, and I don't like to see it. So if we're gonna do this again next year, take us out onto the snow. Maybe hang out with some people, hang out with a snow bunny. Get some people around you, and we'll do a whole group pick or do something fun. Yeah, something closer to last year. This year, I mean, I understand you're probably a little down because your Broncos lost again, but 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 for the show, for the people who are listening right now, step it up a little bit. All right, that's all.
Yeah, Tommy. Jeez.
All right, Tommy's 5 games are in the books, and that takes us to Ben's 5 games. Ben is in Chicago, and we're going to begin with the team in Chicago, the Bears.
Still, Tommy. It's crazy what those lacrosse people let you get away with, huh? I don't know, man. Some freaks. Nah, just kidding. Uh, Listen, Atlanta Falcons traveling here to the Soldier Field. Listen, you don't want to watch this game, and I don't really want to talk about this game, and no one wants to even think about this game. All right, and tell you what, the weather's getting nasty outside. That's the weather report for you. That's me just being outside today. Just Chicago's becoming Chicago winter now, huh? This sucks. And I expect the Falcons, who love their roof in Atlanta, they're going to have a hard time out here. Justin is probably going to have a couple really amazing plays that make Bears fans across the city wonder, huh, should we really get rid of him? I don't know. What's the guy? What do we do here, huh? Yeah, that's basically what I foresee happening here. I think the Bears get it done. Uh, Probably to the dismay of Bears fans, honestly, at this point. But what can I say, Chicago? This is the mess that you're stuck with. I like the Bears covering 3 here.
Yeah, the Falcons are the most annoying team in football. Arthur Smith is the most annoying head coach and play caller in football. The Bears are playing better football, although it is not because of Justin Fields. Their defense is much better. I mean, they beat the Cardinals last week. Beating the Cardinals is no special prize. Khalil Herbert had a huge game. He went over 100 yards. Cole Kmet went over 100 yards. They What's happening is that other players around this team are playing well. This defense is playing well. Since they picked up Montez Sweat, this defense has really come around. They beat the Lions because they had massive turnovers. They hung with the Bears or hung with the Browns until the very end because they forced a lot of turnovers. This is not a Justin Fields led surge. And because of that, I think the Bears are absolutely going quarterback with that first overall pick next year. So as much as I think Justin Fields has a future in the NFL, I don't think it's in Chicago. However, he is going to be on the winning side. The Bears are going to win this game at home. Get the Falcons out of the dome. Arthur Smith's not going to know what to do with himself. He's going to give the ball to, he's going to just feed Jonnu Smith the entire game. If you're in the fantasy finals and you've got any Atlanta Falcons, my prayers to you because I'm sure you're going to spend the entire day pissed off at Arthur Smith. Go Chicago. They're going to win this game by more than 3 points. All right. Ben, your next game. Look at this. Those Carolina Panthers, a team that right now is going to be giving that first overall pick to the Bears, you like on the road.
Oh, I know. What am I doing here? Listen, Carolina has somehow found themselves with back-to-back weeks where they've been able to cover the spread, and though it barely does anything to salvage their record on the season, I think that they are finding a Jacksonville team that is starting to slip. This team went from being a top team in the AFC to possibly watching the playoffs from home. Okay? Uh, I don't think that Jacksonville has slipped so far that they lose this game, but 7 points I think is a lot right now for a team that's just they looked horrible against Tampa. How can you defend them as 7 point favorites against anybody with what they put up like 12? Like, it
Yeah,
was
they were
terrible.
behind 30 to nothing at one point.
It was disgusting. It was just a horrible, horrible performance. And listen, the Panthers aren't. This is hysterical, but the Panthers aren't as good as Tampa. Obviously, Tampa isn't good, but you know what? They don't really need to be. I think that 7 points is just a large enough window. I think that Vegas is probably finding the number, the correct algorithm here for the Panthers spread number. Uh, I'm gonna take it at +7.
Yeah, so I was in a bar last weekend, and as I am most weekends, and it's the only reason I watched the Panthers Packers game. I never would have turned that game on, but it was on the TV in the bar, and I was watching it. And Bryce Young, that fourth quarter, he looked like a real live NFL quarterback. He played with confidence. He played fearless. He led the Panthers up and down the field. He scored that 2 point conversion, kept him in the game. He got it all the way down inside the 30-yard line on that final second drive. I was really impressed by watching Bryce Young, and man, the Panthers have found something right now. Yeah, they're not turning these into W's, but they are actually looking like a football team with a future. If you're a Panthers fan right now, you have to have liked the way they looked. You have to feel good about December Bryce Young versus September Bryce Young. And yeah, the Jaguars have lost 4 in a row. They were in command of this division. Now they're in a 3-way tie in this division. Every week there's a new injury for Trevor Lawrence. This week it's his shoulder. He had a concussion the week before. He's got an ankle injury from a couple weeks ago that he's still dealing with. I mean, can the Panthers go into Jacksonville and keep this game close? Absolutely, because Panthers are playing good football. The Jaguars are not. Obviously, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a better team, but they're playing terrible football right now. I like this. It's a sneaky spread you wouldn't think to do, but I could see the Panthers keeping this game to within 3 or 4 points. I like it. All right. The Las Vegas Raiders are at the Indianapolis Colts. The Raiders' string of good play continues in Indianapolis, says you, Ben.
Man, it doesn't make me happy, right? I don't want this to come off the wrong way from one AFC West brethren to another. But listen, the Colts are just took a nasty loss to the lowly Falcons, man. Just that was ugly. And we talk about Lucas Oil Stadium. It can get loud in there, but they're only 3-4 at home this year. They have a losing record at home, and they are playing against a team that is coming off of back-to-back weeks, just embarrassing in their own ways, division rivals, right? The Chiefs weren't supposed to lose to them, and they weren't supposed to blow out the Chargers the way they did, and they believe that they are going to embarrass the Broncos. And I have no doubt that they probably will to close out the season. I think that the Colts are just unfortunately sandwiched in here at the last run that they're going to make here. The Raiders roster really seems to like Antonio Pierce, and I think that they're going to try and win out the rest of the season for this interim coach. So it's impossible for Mark Davis to hire anyone but Pierce, and that would avoid another McDaniel situation, right? Because this is deja vu for Vegas, really. Um,
Yeah.
I just think Indy is in the path of the steamroller right now. I think that Las Vegas comes to town and gets it done here.
Yeah. If you watch that Raiders Chiefs game from last week, their defense was spectacular. They got after Mahomes. They killed the Chiefs tackles. That pass rush was brutal. And when the pass rush wasn't getting home, it didn't matter because nobody was open downfield. Defense played great from start to finish. They finished the game without a completed pass the final 3 quarters of the game. They scored a total of 6 offensive points, and they won 2014 because the defense was that good. Uh, can they get after Gardner Minshew? Absolutely, they can. Are the Colts wide receivers that much better than the Chiefs wide receivers? Not really. I like this Raiders team. They are rolling, as you said. This team wants to play for Antonio Pierce. They want him to be their head coach next year. I think he's already earned that right. I think he proves it again this week. I think the Raiders win this game outright. Give me the 3 points. Hell yes, because I think the Raiders on the money line are going to be a great bet. I like the Vegas. No, I don't like the Vegas Raiders. Let's be honest.
Oh,
I
almost came
hate them.
out wrong.
I
Almost
hate
came
them.
out wrong there, Kyle. You almost
Yeah,
slipped
I
up.
know. I know. I loathe this team, but as a betting man, I'm putting my money on the Raiders this week because they are playing really impressive football the last few weeks. I hate to say it, but it's true. All right, moving on from that, I got to go like take a shower after saying all those things. Let's move on to the Steelers at the Seattle Seahawks. You also like the underdog in this game.
Yes, Seattle has escaped their past two games with 3-point wins. In fact, the scoreline was 2017 in both of them. And honestly, I could see this being the third week in a row with that exact scoreline with the Seattle Seahawks win. Um, Listen, I'm not really. Seattle is the better team here. They're going to find a way to clutch it up in the end. Uh, but the Steelers defense is solid. Who was it? Mason Rudolph didn't look too bad back there in the game against Cincy. I I like Pittsburgh's defense to keep it within three. I still like Seattle to win. They are the better team here. Uh, but God, 3.5 is just one of those tricky numbers. Uh, I'm gonna have to side with the Steelers defense and T.J. Watt here on this one.
Yeah, obviously, I like the Steelers defense. And last week, George Pickens went off against the Bengals. He had touchdowns of 86 yards and 66 yards, but that's not sustainable. You cannot rely on 80-yard touchdown passes every week. The fact is that Seattle's secondary, despite the fact that Jamal Adams is completely washed, the secondary is better than what we see in Cincinnati. They are not going to let him get behind them and run up and down the field. He had 4 catches, 195 yards. That is, look, I would be more impressed by the Steelers defense if they grounded out and had, a good 7 first down touchdown drive. The big plays are fun, but they're not sustainable, especially when you've got Mason Rudolph as your quarterback. Seattle's at home. Seattle can actually get into the playoffs this week, although it requires a tie from two other teams. But Seattle right now, they are the favored team to get into the playoffs. In fact, they're paying like minus 325 to be a playoff team. They are going to probably get one of these final wild card spots in the NFC. Steelers are probably going to be left out of the AFC and not in the playoffs, mostly because of quarterback play. I trust Geno Smith more than I trust Mason Rudolph. I like Seattle. I think Seattle covers this spread. It'll be close, but I do think Seattle covers this spread. That is my pick there. All right, the game that everybody will be tuning into, the game of the year, the Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos, and you like the underdog in this one too.
Okay, so the line isn't 5.5 at the time of recording. It's what, 3.5 right now?
Oh, because of the Russell Wilson news. Yes, it has.
Which is insane. Russell Wilson's only worth 2 points to these people. What's this disrespect? Come on, let's ride or whatever. Uh, and listen, the Chargers almost pulled off an insane upset over the Bills after getting rid of their head coach without some of their key players. And despite going into Buffalo and winning earlier this year, this current Broncos team is not better than the Buffalo team that the Chargers played last week. Uh, in my notes, I just have Jarrett Stidham question mark. What is about to happen, Broncos country? We are back on the quarterback carousel. Hope you you're not motion sick. We're going back again, and it doesn't. What feels weird about it is that I don't know if we should be, right? But B, the way that we got here feels really crummy for Broncos fans, especially if the reports on how Russell was treated is true. Because if it's true that he had the knowledge that they were gonna move on with him from him, you know, 2 months ago or whatever, I have even more respect for Russell Wilson than I did prior to him being benched because genuinely he played like a great leader that you would have never known. I had no clue that he would have any idea of that kind of information. And the fact that they would go to him and ask him to restructure a contract and do stuff like that, you know what? Bottom line, it's not what Pat Bowlen would have done. And it would not have ever been a thing that was considered in that building when Pat Bowlen owned that team. I think that it's a damn shame for Broncos fans to see what this organization has become, because it used to be a team that players really liked coming to, that was really good to players. That was the reputation. It's why we did so well in free agency. It's why Peyton Manning came here. All right, it's why Ware came here. It's why all these great players that we had no business really going out there and getting would show up to Denver's because they knew that we would treat them right. And with this kind of stuff floating out there, it's going to be hard. Even if the rumors aren't real, there has to be some amount of truth to it, right? And it's going to be in the back of players' minds when they get offers from Denver. It's it's a really sad spot for the Broncos to be in right now. It's a really disappointing state of the franchise, which is weird because this has been quite the season. It started with 1-5, absolute doom and gloom, a lot of belief and hope for a stretch there in the middle, and then somehow we're ending feeling like that stretch didn't happen. It feels
Yeah.
like the beginning of this season. It feels like we are that 1-5 team again. Uh, I love this team. Uh, I'm always gonna bleed orange. It is a rough, I'm not gonna lie. If I would be lying if I said this wasn't a rough patch. It wasn't a weird blow. I was accepting Russell Wilson as my quarterback, cringe and all. I liked it. It was becoming a thing. I was gonna be okay with it. Uh, and Sean Payton, I all right, I'm gonna believe in you. You got my trust for a season, but you better start winning because if not, I don't know how much leash you have with the fan base right now. They seem pretty upset. The treatment of Russell Wilson just seems pretty astounding. That actually had nothing to do with really the impact of this game, but I just don't see this Broncos team really trying to compete. I think the locker room is just completely deflated at this point. I think they did like Russell Wilson. Um, yeah, I just think the Chargers gonna have a field day. I could see them winning by a couple touchdowns here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. For those of you who don't know exactly what Ben is talking about, so we're recording this on Thursday, the 28th. It came out today that the Broncos actually went to Russell Wilson and his representatives back at the end of October, and they said, if you do not waive your injury clause in your contract, we're going to deactivate you. The injury clause is that if he's on this roster 5 days after the 2024 season starts in March, that there's this $37 million 2025 a payment to him that kicks in. Clearly, what the Broncos are doing is they want to be able to have the freedom to move him this offseason, either via trade or by just outright releasing him. And they would not have that flexibility if that $37 million kicks in. They're not going to play in these last 2 weeks because they don't want him to get hurt because they can't move him. But they tried this back in October. And to me, that feels like a major violation. It's one thing to ask a guy to restructure his contract. It's another thing to threaten him with deactivation, which would undoubtedly hurt his. I mean, I'm sure he gets game bonuses and things like that. So you're saying if you don't take away this, we're going to take away this from you. That's not how contracts are supposed to work. I'm certain that the NFL Players Association is going to be doing some investigation here. It feels really shady. It feels like that they did Russ dirty. Obviously, the regime now is not the same regime that signed Russ to his big contract after he was traded for in 2022. But man, he's still your quarterback. As Ben, as you said, it does feel like that this team has rallied around him. He's clearly played better this year than he did last year, but he's not Sean Payton's guy, and you can see that. At the end of last week, Russ, ran up and down the field there in the end of the game and kept the Broncos in that game against the Patriots. And because he was playing Russell Wilson's style of football, he was just dropping back, running around, making plays. That's not what Sean Payton likes to do. You listen to the press conference after that game. Russell Wilson was like, "Yeah, we got to play with some freedom, and it really showed." You listen to Sean Payton, and Sean Payton is like, "Oh well, that was just some things that happened. It wasn't that it's not indicative of where we can go as an offense." Sean Payton wanted to downplay all the gains that offense made at the end of the game, and it was really clear he didn't choose Russell Wilson. He doesn't want to be with Russell Wilson, and it's not because Russell Wilson isn't a good quarterback. It's because Russell Wilson does not play the way Sean Payton wants to play. Sean Payton wants to play in rhythm, short passes in rhythm. He wants another Drew Brees. Russell Wilson is not that guy, and it's it. I'm obviously not a Broncos fan. If the Broncos lose these last two games, I'm totally fine with that. But it is interesting to see this and to watch a guy who, for all of his corniness, I think Russell Wilson is a good human, and you hate to see him get dicked over like he is right now. Obviously, the fans are getting dicked over. If you paid to go to this Chargers Broncos game, you were not going to watch Easton Stick and Jarrett Stidham, and now that's what you get. That's kind of bullshit. I live in Denver, so this is the game that I'm stuck with watching on my TV. Sons of bitches. That is not what I paid for either. So here we are. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's very much what the Raiders did with David Carr or with Derek Carr. They sat him down because they didn't want him to get hurt because they wanted to move him. They ended up releasing him. He ends up signing with the Saints. It'll be interesting. I think that Russell Wilson signs with somebody next year. I think somebody is going to still see that, hey, even though he's 34, there's still a quarterback in this guy. There's still some talent there. He's not the guy who went to the Super Bowl with the Seahawks, but he's also not the guy that we saw last year either. He is somewhere in between that. I can see him catching on with somebody and rebounding. And if the Broncos are forced to release him, that's $87 million in dead cap money that they'll have to spend or to spread over 2 years. That's a hefty price to get rid of him. You have to really want to get rid of him to take on that kind of money burden. But Sean Payton is in charge. We knew that as soon as he was the coach that they were going that Russell Wilson's time was only going to be as long as Sean Payton accepted it. Sean Payton is now in charge of this team. It's clear, and Russell Wilson is not his quarterback of choice. Jarrett Stidham is not that quarterback either. But boy, what a turn of events this week for Denver football. As for this game, don't watch it. I'm not going to bet it because who knows what the hell is going to happen between these two backup quarterbacks that are not worthy of being on an NFL. They're not worthy of playing in a game in December where there's at least one of these teams that actually still could make the playoffs. It's not worthy of anybody's time. I'm going to just say avoid the Chargers and Broncos and maybe boycott them until they actually show some heart. Because, as you said, Pat Bowlen, as much as I've never liked the Denver Broncos, you had to have respect for Pat Bowlen, one of the great owners in football, one of the gentlemen in the NFL, and you had to always respect the way he conducted himself, the way he conducted his team, the way he treated his players as if they were his family. Sean Payton treating Russell Wilson as nothing more than a commodity, and it's disappointing.
Well, the thing, just to really, really quickly just give some more context about that contract, what they were asking Russell Wilson to do is remove the part of his contract that says, if I go out there playing football for you, okay, and I get injured in any way, shape, or form, right? Up to the point of like we've seen some horrific things, like Alex Smith's injury, right? That part of the contract says that if that were to happen to Russell, he still gets paid for contributing to the team and for everything that he's done for the organization. And they said you should play without that. You should put your body on the line with no guarantee of a return. And that is an insane thought for anyone in this profession to ask them to do with a clear
Yeah.
conscience, right? Like, I don't want to get super political or like super anti big company or anything, but this isn't Walmart, okay? We're not treating the Denver Broncos roster like Walmart employees. Have some respect for what these dudes are putting themselves through. Because it is
Yeah.
ridiculous to look at them as just the bottom line numbers. This is such a brutal sport. It is such, like, we're thankful that these guys like the game as much as we do, that they are willing to go out there and put it all on the line for us. That's what makes the sport awesome. Is that, but yeah, yeah, they deserve something in return for putting their bodies on the line, and it's ridiculous for the Broncos to have done that. And honestly, these teams are dumpster fires anyway, so we should probably move on, right?
We should move on, but it is an interesting story. And obviously, Russell Wilson is still one of the bigger names in the NFL. And as you said, this is an unusual move. It's not uncommon for teams to go ask players to restructure, but typically what they do is they roll over some base salary into a signing bonus that they can then take in cash that gives the team a little flexibility in a salary cap. It is not something like this where they it's not that the Broncos wanted flexibility in the salary cap. They wanted some flexibility in cutting him and making him unemployed and not honoring the rest of his contract. That was what they were seeking. And yeah, that's it's a cold business, and that was one of the colder moves that I've seen in recent years. All right, thank you, Ben. Those are your 5 games. Now on to my 5 games, and we are going to start in Philadelphia. The Arizona Cardinals at the Philadelphia Eagles. And so the Eagles did get their win over the Giants. They ended their losing streak. They didn't look all that impressive in that game. I'm still disappointed in how they looked. They let the Giants hang around. The Tyrod Taylor led New York Giants should not be keeping pace with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this week the Eagles finally get that blowout win that they've been seeking for a while. I think we see the Eagles in all of their strengths. Obviously, that they have a lot of weaknesses. Their back seven on their defense is not very good. Their linebacking core is not very good. But if there's one team that's not good at exploiting anybody else's weakness, it's the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are certainly more stable on offense with Kyler Murray at quarterback, but he's still not doing anything spectacular. I mean, the guy's just now a year removed from tearing his ACL. So I'm not surprised that he's not explosive when he's running the ball. He doesn't look fully comfortable in this offense, partly because this offense isn't very good. The Eagles, I think, win this game by a couple of touchdowns. 10.5 points to me is not much of a spread. I like Philadelphia to go ahead and wipe out the Cardinals and maintain their lead over the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Eagles deserve this. They've been playing some tough teams lately, and they've been feeling a little beat up. It's time to go beat up on the little kids, right? Like it's the Arizona Cardinals, man. Like, what a team. I like the Eagles 10.5. I'd probably tease it up to maybe 13.5. Honestly, play the 2 touchdown game here. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be, and it's in Philadelphia. Yeah, good luck, good night. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Eagles all day.
All right. The New England Patriots are getting 12 points at the Buffalo Bills. I am taking those 12 points, and here's why. The Patriots have not lost by as many as 13 points since week 8. They have been playing teams close, certainly closer than 12 points. They played the Chiefs close. They just went into Denver and won. They beat the Steelers. They're playing some decent football. Bill Belichick is still a pretty good coach. This defense is still really good. Bailey Zappi was all over the field last week. He looked great. The Bills are obviously a much better team, but let's not forget they lost to the Patriots earlier this year already. The Bills just had to beat Easton Stick by a last second field goal against the Chargers. The Bills are rolling, but they're still doing Buffalo Bills things, and that means they're not putting away teams. They're making mistakes. They're turning the ball over. I think they do enough of those things to keep this game close. I don't think the Patriots are going to go ahead and get another win over Buffalo, but I do think that this game finishes in less than 10-point spread. So I am going to go with the Patriots and take those 12 points.
I completely agree with you. Buffalo just they're just not getting it done. Right? We keep hearing about how Buffalo is going to be a contender for the past few years, and as we've said multiple times on this show, they've yet to really prove the ability to play a clean 60-minute game. They can't play all three phases cleanly, and until they can learn to do that, they're going to be incapable of making deep runs to the Super Bowl and trying to compete for that Lombardi. I think that in a divisional match like this, with the amount of struggle they've had the past couple weeks, it's not unlikely that Josh Allen gets a little, antsy and throws a couple up there, and who knows who comes down with it. This is what he likes to do. And I like it. 12 points here. It seems like a large window for the Patriots. I like them to cover 12.
All right, the Los Angeles Rams at the New York Giants. Now, if the playoffs were to begin today, the Rams would play the Detroit Lions. How much fun would that game be? The Rams offense right now is they look as good as any team in football. They over the last 5 games have averaged 32 points a game. They are playing great football. You've got Puka Nacua, who is on pace to set the records for most receptions by a rookie, most receiving yards by a rookie. He has if one more 100-yard game, and he sets the record for most 100-yard games by a rookie. Kyron Williams has gone over 100 yards 6 times in his 11 games that he's played. Matthew Stafford looks like Matthew Stafford from when he threw for 5,000 yards. He hasn't thrown an interception in 4 weeks. Over that stretch, he's got 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. This offense is playing as good a football as anybody in football. I want them to roll, but stay in that 6th seed so that you'll play the 3 seed, and we get to see the Lions and the Rams in that first round. That's going to be like a 45-48 game. I want to see that game so badly. But the Rams are going to roll here. The Giants are not a good team. They did hold their own against the Eagles last week, but that's more about Philadelphia's struggles and not about what the Giants are doing. The Rams right now are simply too hot of a team. Sean McVay, he's just calling wonderful games each and every week. He's going to have something. He's going to run circles around this Giants team. I like the Rams. Only giving up 6 points. Touchdown, of course. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think the Rams are going to win this game by a couple of scores. But so I'm only having to give 6. I'm doing it for sure.
Well, maybe we should just petition the league to start the playoffs now, because that sounds like a great matchup if you ask me. I would love to see the Rams and the Lions duke it out right now. I love it way more than watching them play the Giants, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that this is going to be a one-sided beatdown. I think that last week's more indicative of how true division rivalries go in the NFL. You really got to look at divisional games differently. Crazy stuff happens in divisional games, especially in the NFC East. That's one of the more, heated divisions. So, yeah, I don't think that the Giants are actually at that level as the Eagles. I think that they elevated themselves for the moment. I think that the Rams are just a way better team than the Giants. I love the Rams here to give up 6 here.
All right, Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. Once again, the Chiefs, all they need is a win to clinch the division. They had that opportunity last week. It did not go well. They've got the opportunity this week against the Bengals. The Kansas City defense is playing fantastic football. They're now facing Jake Browning, who the clock struck midnight on Jake last week. They got manhandled by Pittsburgh 34-11. The Cincinnati offense could do nothing against the Steelers. The Chiefs defense is also very good. I don't think this Bengals offense can do anything against the Chiefs. I think that the Bengals are going to score 14 or 13 points overall. The Chiefs then just need to get past 21. I think they do that. I think they get a defensive score here, but I also think, considering the way the Bengals secondary has been playing, you're going to see a steady diet of Patrick Mahomes to Rashee Rice. Patrick is pretty pissed off right now, as we've seen. The Chiefs have lost 3 or 4 games. It's not something they do. This first time they've lost 4 games at home in years. They're pissed off. Patrick is pissed off. I think that there was a kind of a come to Jesus moment this week, and I think that they go ahead and get this job done. They clinch the division here. They do have a look of a team that's ripe to be picked off in the playoffs, but every team in the NFL right now seems like a team that could lose in the playoffs. The Chiefs certainly seem that way more than a lot of others. I think they're going to go in, and you really can see there's a lot of paper tigers here. They're going to win these divisions. Whoever wins the AFC South, not going to be a very good team. Whoever wins the NFC South, not going to be a very good team. The Chiefs, as the likely AFC West winners, not going to be a very good playoff team right now. But they are good enough to beat Jake Browning and a banged up Bengals team who their playoff hopes took a huge hit last week by losing the Steelers. They have very little to play for at this point. I know they'd like to spoil the Chiefs because these two teams have become rivals over the last couple of years, but I don't think it happens this Sunday.
Let me take you back to this moment a couple years ago on the Super Bowl. Number 15 for the Chiefs ends up parallel with the ground, completely horizontal, and flicks a ball on a rope. What was it, like 30 yards, and hits, who was it? Right in the face mask. Who was it, Kyle?
Well, he had one earlier that hit Tyreek in the face mask. I think it was shit.
I don't even know
It
who
was
it was.
one of the lesser wide receivers. It wasn't Hill or Watkins. I forget
But
who it was.
in that moment, America found out that Patrick Mahomes actually does have a weakness. And that weakness is he cannot be on the other side of the pass catching it. All right, because if he could, I'm sure it would be amazing. Just Patrick to Patrick connections all day, every day. But America realized that you're gonna have to have some solid hands on the other side of that pass, and somehow, I guess Kansas City just missed the message. I don't know. They've just been struggling this year with something that they really shouldn't. And as a Broncos fan, I know that we're not going to see much of the postseason. We're not going to see the postseason at all. The only postseason we're going to see is from DirecTV at home on our couches. But I will say, I did find a little bit of solace the day after losing to New England, watching Travis Kelce enter Arrowhead dressed up as Santa, holding Taylor Swift's hand, going ho 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 ho. He's like, this is gonna be a great Christmas. And then a few hours later, he's throwing his helmet. I think that turn is just amazing. I thought it was awesome. That's what I'm here for. Unfortunately, I don't think the Bengals are going to make him throw his helmet. I think the Chiefs are going to have plenty of success against the Bengals. Bengals are just not the Cincinnati team that we're used to the past couple years, especially without Joe Burrow. Uh, Browning's looked fine. He's not great. And I think the Chiefs are just out to prove that they can still be a competitive team in the postseason. And I do have faith that Andy Reid can pull this team together uh, to make at least a competitive run in January. Uh, Cincinnati, this is a great time to prove it for Kansas City. I think this is going to be a great prove it game. I think that Arrowhead's going to be rocking. It's going to be a great time for the KC Mo area. Uh, Less of a great time for the Bengals fans. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here, giving up 7.
All right. The NFC South. If the Buccaneers beat the New Orleans Saints, they will clinch the division. And I don't think there's any reason to think they won't win this game. There's no reason to think they won't cover this 3-point spread. Baker Mayfield has been spectacular. He has a higher quarterback rating than Tom Brady had last year. He already has more touchdown passes than Tom Brady had last year. This team has already as many wins as Tom Brady had last year. He wins this week. He will have more wins. What we're saying is that Tom Brady retiring from football was the best thing that could have happened to Tampa Bay. I have a prop for this game. I'm going to go with Baker over 1.5 passing touchdowns, over 233.5 passing yards. That pays me plus 254 to combine those two things. Baker is playing. He's resurrecting his career. This was a guy who's bouncing around from teams, 4 teams in just over a year. He has found a home in Tampa Bay. There are other parts of this roster in Tampa Bay that are not great, but quarterback is not one of them. Wide receiver is not one of them. They still have Mike Evans, who is as good as anybody in football, as consistent as anybody in football. And all they have to do is beat Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. There's no reason to think that they won't do that. There's no reason to think they will not be NFC South Division champions for the second year in a row. And maybe, considering the way they've been playing recently, this might be a team that can do a little damage in the playoffs, depending on who they get. Um, they'll be the fourth seed, so they will get to be at home for the first game. They will get to play. Right now, the seventh seed will be the Seattle Seahawks. I could see Tampa Bay beating Seattle at home and then going on. At that point, they would play the top seed, so they would play the 49ers. And so, so maybe they don't beat the 49ers. But still, I like this. I like this Bucks team. I like them this week, and I like them until they meet one of the top teams. But really, really, really impressed by Mayfield and the way he's played this year. He's playing like a guy who was a first overall pick. Good for him. I'm happy to see it.
I was just thinking, I wish I could have a time machine and go back in time to the 2018 draft right after to tell all those Cleveland Browns fans, don't worry, 2023, you will go to the playoffs. And Baker Mayfield will be in the playoffs, but he'll be for the Buccaneers, and you'll have Joe Flacco. Oh, can you imagine the laughing stock I would be in 2018? But here we are. There is no greater reality TV show than the NFL. Okay, this is where the best drama lives. And honestly, I am here for it. I, I I love this Baker Mayfield that we are seeing in Tampa. And you know what? I think part of it is his attitude just didn't sit right in Ohio. I think that he has that Florida style of just, hey, whatever, man, like chains that he bought with Cole's cash type of situation. You know what I'm talking about? I love this Baker Mayfield that we're seeing this year. And I don't like the Saints. I'm not sure if I'm sure we could go back and make a compilation video of me just shit talking the Saints this year, and Derek Carr and just whoever is playing. I just have had some disdain for Nola this year. Can't tell you why. Don't know why. They're just not playing fun football. Uh, I like the Buccaneers. I think 3 points is a little low, probably because it is a divisional game. But heck, I think they get it done by a touchdown at least, right?
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all 15 games. We're not doing Thursday night games because we're recording this on Thursday, but 15 games. There is no Monday night game this week. These are all on Saturday and Sunday. And that is the end of those 15. But of course, you should not bet all 15 games. That would be silly because some of these games are real dogs. What we're now going to do is tell you our favorite favorites, our top dogs, and our easy money line picks. Tommy has submitted his picks, so I will be able to pick for him based on what we choose. But because Tommy has chosen his family over you, he has to pick last. He has to pick last this
Yeah.
week because he decided being with his family over the holidays was more important than making you some money. Damn him. All right. So, Ben, you are going to get to go first. You are going to pick our favorite favorites, our top dogs, and our easy money lines.
Alrighty. Well, like first off, Tommy, I don't even think is snowboarding. All right, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that he's just not man enough to come onto this podcast and face me after what he's done to my beloved Denver Broncos all year. I think
Most
that's what
likely.
it is. Uh, but so which one do you want first? My favorite
Your
favorite.
favorite favorite, please.
My favorite favorite is going to be shake and bake Mayfield and the
Nice.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 3 points there.
Giving three. Baker. All right. I like it. Your top dog, please.
My top dog. I hate that I'm doing this. They're not technically dogs. They're a big cat. I'm gonna go with the Carolina Panthers. Uh,
Panthers getting 7 against the Jaguars.
oh, that's such a terrifying bet. Nah, I feel good about it though.
I don't know that I have to go back and look, but I don't think that we've had the Panthers as our picks very often this year. Maybe
Oh
once or
my
twice tops.
goodness.
So that'll be hey, I like it. I mean, they look so much better now. So
They,
I can't hate that pick.
they are a team of destiny, aren't they? I'm gonna pull up the money lines right now. I think, however, I am going to roll with. I hate this. I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm getting plus 160.
That is what I am seeing as well. So you've got the Las Vegas Raiders plus 160. All right. So for me, my favorite of the week, I am going to go with who am I going to go with? I am going to go with the Chicago Bears, giving 3 points to the Atlanta Falcons. I hate Arthur Smith. All right.
The neighborhood's going crazy, Kyle. They love it. They love it.
My top dog of the week, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots covering that 12-point spread against the Buffalo Bills, getting 12 points. I am taking New England plus 12. And my money line pick of the week, let's see. I'm going to take that plus 159 on the Los Angeles Chargers. Plus 159. LAC. All right. So Tommy's picks, Tommy's favorite, he is going to go with the Houston Texans, giving 3.5 points. His top dog is the Green Bay Packers, getting 2.5 points. And his money line pick, he also has Green Bay at minus 105.
I have him at minus
Should we give him
104.
Green Bay or should we give him Atlanta? Since he's already picked Green Bay for one of his games,
Yeah, give him Atlanta.
he likes Atlanta at plus 136.
Oh, that get me that. Come on, we're in plus money. We gotta play it.
Yeah. Well, he's been struggling on the money line more recently. He's dropped. He was up $1,100. He's now at 896. So he's
Oh,
trying to
he's
get a little bit of that back with the Falcons.
pretty
And look,
ballsy betting against the Bears there, huh? That's a pretty
hey, yeah, I mean,
ballsy move, huh?
yeah, you don't win in NFL betting by picking against the Bears. I mean, that's bold, Tommy. Yeah, maybe probably the altitude that he's not used to it. He's a sea level guy up there in the mountains in Vermont, and probably a little lack of oxygen got to him there. But he's going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. So to recap our picks, Ben's favorite is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're giving 3 points to the New Orleans Saints. Carolina Panthers, your top dog, getting 7 points at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And your easy money line bet, the Las Vegas Raiders, they are plus 160 against the Indianapolis Colts. That is really good value there. Tommy's picks, he's got the Houston Texans minus 3.5. They host the Tennessee Titans. He's got the Green Bay Packers getting 2.5 points as his top dog. They are at the Minnesota Vikings. And it's easy money line pick, the Atlanta Falcons, plus 136 at the Chicago Bears. I am taking those same Chicago Bears as my favorite. They're giving 3 points. My top dog, the New England Patriots. They are getting 12 points at the Buffalo Bills. And then my easy money line pick, the Los Angeles Chargers. I am all on the Easton Stick train. They are getting plus 159. They're at the Denver Broncos and new quarterback Jarrett Stidham. Yes. So that is our show, week 17. By the time we see you next week, we might have the entire NFC playoff picture covered for you. It's possible that when this weekend is over, the entire NFC will be decided. We're expecting we could have both the Jaguars and the Chiefs clinch this week, giving the AFC, or the Dolphins can also clinch the East, so we could have all 4 division champions in the AFC by the end of this weekend. Or we could still enter week 18 with a whole lot of teams still battling for a few spots. Who knows? It's the NFL. Nobody knows what's going to happen from week to week. It's wonderful. That's why we do this. All right, Ben. I will, in the interest of full disclosure, we do not have any kind of football zen to end the night with, because I went out for a happy hour drink with the wife. We were walking home. We walked past the liquor store I had not been into. We're in a new neighborhood. I wanted to explore it. They happened to be doing a Japanese whiskey tasting. I ended up lingering a little longer than I had planned. I got home. Japanese whiskey on board. Did not have time to give you a football zen for this week.
That's
So
fine.
we're just going to leave you with our picks and wish you well in all of your betting this week. On behalf of Tommy Birch, who is off shushing down a mountain in Vermont, Ben O'Connell, who is in Chicago, Illinois, and you cannot kill the Denver Broncos spirit in this man. No matter what you do, Sean Payton, you cannot kill his spirit. And I am Kyle Garwood in Denver, Colorado, but wishing I was in Kansas City to watch the Chiefs. Fun fact, I will be in LA on week 18 to watch the Chiefs and Chargers play in that game. Hopefully the Chiefs still have something to play for, so I don't have to watch a backup quarterback then. All right. Thank you so much for watching NFL Points, Picks, and Props Week 17. Until next week, happy betting.
Russell Wilson, let's ride.
Yeah.